legitimately the people of Libya. When one kills his own people, when one responds to demonstration by sending some planes to bomb the demonstrators, he is out of the game. And this morning, I sat near 3 gentlemen who were really dignified representative of the Libyan people.
I have to ask one thing, that there are those who believe that this may have been a slightly, well, they cynically believe, I guess, that President Sarkozy was doing this for popularity, considering his ratings have slumped as low as the 30% mark.
I'm not sure, you know, that he will gain a lot of popularity with that. France is a very cautious country. You have in my country, unfortunately, a strong anti-Muslim feeling or even a racist feeling. And I'm not sure that to involve in the affairs of Libya will provide so much popularity to Sarkozy. No, I believe, you know, I'm so often hostile myself to Sarkozy. I'm opposed to his politics on so many grounds. I voted against him and I will vote probably against him next time too. But I must admit that on this case, he was just okay and even great. On this case, one has to be honest. Even if you oppose democratically to a president, you must admit when it is daylight that it is daylight. This morning, Nicolas Sarkozy, without having so much to win, had the great and the good and the right political gesture. And I think that he changed completely the pattern of our policy toward the Arab world. What was called before the Arab policy of France meant in reality friendship with dictators, meant in reality friendship with the states with no consideration of the nation or the peoples. Today, maybe we see the beginning of a new policy based on friendship between peoples, based on consideration of what the regime are in depth and not only in face value. Today we are maybe facing the beginning of a policy where to be the friend of the Arab world will not mean to be the friend of Mubarak, of Ben Ali, these thieves, these thugs, or the friend of Gaddafi, this hooligan, and this crazy fool guy. So it was an important moment which happened in the history of the relationship between Europe and the Arab world this morning in Paris, and I'm very proud to have been involved in a way in this story.
Well, Monsieur Levy, before I ask you more about your trip to Libya, let me ask you one quick thought. I don't know if you heard, the Libyan media is saying that they have information, you know, a dark secret about Mr. Sarkozy, and that it could be information that would cause his leadership to fall. Have you heard about this?
What is the credibility of an information coming from this bouffon of Mr. Gaddafi? He's a clown, he's a bouffon, a bloody clown. This guy who thinks that Sardaigne belongs to France. This guy who pretends that Al-Qaeda is behind the freedom fighters of Libya. This man has no credibility. Whatever he says, it will have no importance. He's just a crazy Neron, you know, an illiterate Neron, the Roman emperor. What he will say has no importance. I'm not so sure we should bother your viewers with that.
Well, a number of our viewers wrote in, of course, with emails for you, sir, as we have an interactive show here. So I'll put an email we got to you, if I may, that came in from a viewer by the name of Zahir Ahmed, who wrote in about the no-fly zone. He says, the idea of US intervention is chilling, but the killing of Libyans must be stopped. A no-fly zone through a UN decision seems to be the right thing to do. Now, of course, France is looking for UN mandated validity to go through and create a new no-fly zone. The European Commission has just advocated that. But do you think that will give it enough credibility to take intervention?
I'm sure of. You know, I went to Libya in order to listen and in order to learn. I went to Libya with a very humble and modest way of approaching the problem. I went there to learn and to listen. What I heard is two things. Number one, please don't steal our revolution. Please don't put your hands off the Libyan revolution. You French had your revolution 2 centuries ago. You achieved it by yourself. We must achieve by ourselves our revolution. This is point number one. Point number two, all the Libyan I met, people, average people of the street, youngsters, users of Facebook and Twitter before it was cut, and a representative like Mr. Abdel-Jalil or Mr. Goga said also, point number two, that there is just one thing they cannot do alone. One thing, which is to neutralize, to prevent the functioning of the 3 military airports from where the planes of the death of Gaddafi take off. This, they cannot alone do it. And they ask to the international community, under an international umbrella, under the umbrella of United Nations, or maybe you have other umbrellas than United Nations. You have the Arab League, you have the African Union, you have many solutions which would provide a legitimacy to a very limited, a very targeted strike in defense of the civilians, and of course not against the civilians, which would put Mr. Gaddafi out of the game. This is the only goal today. Right. All the Libyans I met during these days had one concern. Gaddafi must be put out of the game, whatever is the cost for him. No, of course not for the Libyan people.
Right. Now, interesting you talk about the hands-off sentiment, because from Tunisia, we had an email from a Libyan who's living in Tunisia. Reem Tweleb wrote in saying, I think the West's role should be limited to punishing Gaddafi, helping Libyans restore their stolen wealth, and recognizing the new Libyan National Assembly. Military action must be taken by Arab nations. That echoes very much what you just said, Monsieur Levy. Now, Syria has announced that it wants no military intervention from outside the region as well. I wonder how you think the dynamic between the East and the West will change. You mentioned this previous relationship with dictators. How do you think that the East and West balance will emerge?
First point about the military intervention, one detail. I wrote a piece in the Huffington Post last week saying the following: why not, at the end of the day, you have in the Arab world one very powerful army,